Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. It is the 12th of May. I am Mary Walter, and that guy there is James Rabick, whose phone just fell for
That
whatever
was
reason.
the that was the funnest thing that happened all night.
It was fine for like 15 minutes before the show, and then all of a sudden,
Second, bloop, right on its own.
quiet
But
down.
welcome to the haunted radio station, huh?
You do. You actually do. Um,
Yeah,
Most radio stations are haunted for whatever reason because the people who work at radio stations are socially awkward, shall we say?
yeah,
Socially awkward,
right.
and have no friends to hang out with in heaven.
Hey, what's going on here now? What is going on today?
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's not a fun new way to start a show. Not
Don't
IT
mess.
problems, but
All right. Well, speaking of the show, coming up, we're going to talk about 2000 Mules. I saw the movie. Great. We're also going to talk about Ukraine. We have so much to jam into this show. Gas prices, interesting development today from the administration. Interesting news about hurricanes, which I love, and you will never see on any mainstream media outlet. We also talk about baby formula, uh, undercover payments to some people at the NIH. Huh. Wonder what that's about.
uh-oh.
Elon Musk has caught the attention of the establishment. Project Veritas had something very interesting, a video that they put out. And I actually got a text last night from someone who works at Project Veritas and said, hey, you want to talk about this? And gave us permission to use the video. So we are going to do
Can't
that.
wait.
FBI panic. We talked a lot about the FBI. There's going to be like a theme to this show. And of course, I want to get your comments because I don't know. I just think there's a lot of no good afoot in the FBI. And then just a couple of quick stories that are different and a little fun, not necessarily political. So I'll put your comments up on the air, but I'm not necessarily going to respond to all of them, except for Patrick. There you go. Jess. There you go. James is fumbling with something. Yes, we know
Always.
that, Bill. Thank you. If you are watching on Getter, your comments will not come over to StreamYard for whatever reason, but I will, as quickly as I can, try to read them and incorporate them into the show because we do want your comments as we go along. If you're watching on YouTube, please like the video. Please subscribe. That would be fantastic. James, we're over 100 subscribers now.
Yay! Thank you, everybody. We appreciate that.
Do appreciate that. So, and if anything goes wrong, my IT department is away. So my IT department put together an entire list of directions on how to get on the air for Skype for when I do Newsmax, every step, StreamYard for the podcast, and then Getter, how to get everything up on Getter. And we had a dry run with the instructions to make sure that everything worked.
That handsome devil. He took care of it all, didn't he?
He's fantastic. So before I go into this, like I said, I want to get into this quickly. And I was saying to James, so 2 years ago, the radio station I was working at the time, it came up in my memories on Facebook. And it was 2 years ago that we got the best ratings that the station had gotten in like 35 years, right? Like phenomenal ratings. Everybody's getting bonuses. It's great. It's good times. It's going great. And exactly 1 year to the day, which will be tomorrow, was when they booted me.
That's
Just like
100% radio logic there. That is phenomenal. That makes so much sense.
it
I
does.
understand that completely. I'm not even shocked. Oh, I'm sorry. Shock face.
Yeah, exactly. Radio is the most poorly run. Well, I can't say it's more poorly run than government, but it is a darn close second and coming up on the heels of government.
Well
The
modeled after.
worst run industry. It's awful. It's just terrible. But when you said that, James, I was just laughing. I'm like, it's so true. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, so we got the best ratings that you've gotten since the 80s, and now you're letting me go? What? But whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So here I am. I'm here with you, and that's great. I like that. Ed says they're lost, Mary. Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. And I want to thank, I don't know if I did this last week, but just very quickly, all the new graphics and everything. My friend Eby Stone did all of them, and he is amazing and wonderful. And he's been helping me with with the analytics for YouTube and all that good stuff, and so he's just been amazing. So I want to shout out to EB for just being wonderful. Love you, thank you so much. And he suggested we do another venture, which we will be doing as soon as I get some free time. Actually, when my IT department gets some free time, that will be happening, but not until my IT department gets some free time, because right now it's not happening. All right. Did you see 2,000 Mules by any chance, James?
I did not.
Okay, so I saw it, and I think it was last Saturday. They had a cap of 80,000 people, and you paid $20 to watch. Okay. So if you have two people for us to watch it, we spent $20. It's cheaper than going to the movie theater to watch it, right?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
Right. Cool. So amazing, unbelievable. Everything that you thought to be true about the 2020 election, they backed it up with proof. It's unreal. And what bothered me about this is everything they did, the FBI could have done. The FBI did in order to catch Grandma, who was in Statuary Hall on January 6th because a nice Capitol Police officer held the door open for her. The same stuff they did to catch Grandma, they could have done to answer the questions about election integrity surrounding the 2020 election. Yet they didn't. And that tells me a lot. It also tells me that the GOP did nothing too. Right?
Seemingly.
Patrick, I'm not going back there. So there's that. But thank you. I appreciate that. Wouldn't do that. So along those lines, there's a lot of investigations that are happening. And the fact that private citizens had to do what they did in 2,000 Mules. And if you haven't seen it, I'm telling you, you have to see this movie. It's unreal. Did you see? Oh, they maxed out at 80,000 last Saturday night. They had two preview showings, one a week ago tonight, and then one the Tuesday, 2 days before that. Those were sold out. I tried to get in locally, couldn't get in, sold out.
Wow.
I think on Rumble, he got over $1 million in views on Rumble.
Wow.
I mean, it's phenomenal. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Anyway, the Los Angeles County's Registrar's Office and the U.S. Postal Service are investigating after 104 ballots were found unopened on the sidewalk in East Hollywood.
Just hanging out.
A woman named Christina Rapace was walking her dog Saturday evening. She said, I turned the corner, I saw this box of envelopes. It was a U.S. postal box. I picked up some envelopes and saw they were ballots. So the woman did the right thing. A lot of people would have just said, whatever, and left it there, right? They would have done the right, but she did the right thing. It took her a while. She called the sheriff's department. She couldn't get through to the sheriff. But it's
LA County Sheriff? Yeah.
But it's LA, so... but she emailed them, and they said, not their problem. Contact the post office. So they went back and forth, and finally someone from the LA County Registrar's Office came and picked them up, and they said it looks like a case of mail theft, which is interesting because they must be having a local election out there. But if these were the most secure elections ever, the 2020 elections were the most secure elections ever. How do you know something like that didn't happen somewhere along the line? How do you know mail theft didn't happen anywhere? If you live in an apartment, I know one person in DC who, and you probably, I don't know, did you watch the Kyle Rittenhouse trial at all? Did you watch that?
A piece of it. Keep up with it here.
So did you see Richie McGinnis, the guy who said, yeah, I know what his intent was. What do you mean I don't know what his intent was? He said, I'm going to effing kill you.
Right.
Okay, so Richie got 5 ballots to his apartment for 5 different names for past people who lived there. 5.
Right.
That happened all over the country.
Right. Now, I was going to say, do we think this is new? Do we think this only ever happened this election?
No. Well, this is the.
Or are we just? To my end point, or are we just starting to shine a light on what's probably been going on, maybe somewhat for years, and now we're just starting to hey, maybe we should start reining this in.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Get a handle on our elections.
Yeah. How about we just not do the mail-in ballots anymore?
Yeah, that could be part
That
of
was the
the
big
issue.
thing. I think
Yeah.
that's where all the fraud came. 2,000 mules. That's where this comes from, right? In Michigan, police officers in Michigan took custody of a voting machine. The Michigan State Police and officials with the Michigan Attorney General's office seized a township's voting machines on April 29th, done pursuant to a search warrant. An investigation was launched earlier this year at the request of the Michigan Secretary of State, who said her office received reports that an unnamed third party, quote, was allowed to access vote tabulator components and technology in another county. So by the time we find all this stuff out, I mean, it's done, right? The ship sailed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's long gone. Yeah.
Biden's president, the country. They confirmed the probe has expanded beyond that one county, and they declined to comment further. Hang on one second.
Right. Which, yeah.
Sorry, my nose.
At best, you'd be able to do a wrap up of the sort of thing that happened and try and keep it from happening again.
Right. That's as best as you're going to do.
Yeah.
I mentioned the great possibility winner last year disqualified. Okay. Oh, and there's one more. Hold on. Biden's pick to head the Federal Election Commission. Did you see this?
No.
Okay, so her name is Dara Lindenbaum, and she is the most recent nominee to serve on the FEC. In another life, she represented Stacey Abrams, the nonprofit that Stacey Abrams started, in a lawsuit that made allegations about voter suppression, because Stacey Abrams is still fighting the fact that she says that Kemp stole the election from her.
Okay.
So the 2016 election was not a secure election because Trump won and the Russians rigged it. 2018 in Georgia was not secure, but 2020 they worked all the problems out. It's totally secure. 2020 totally secure. So this woman is being picked to be be a part of the Federal Election Committee to serve on the board. Her name appears as the third signature on the original complaint in the lawsuit alleging voter suppression, where Brian Kemp won. And they amended it and they took out the allegations to focus. They amended it to focus on allegations of poor training of poll workers and the data on voter registration lists. The amended complaints omitted those allegations about the voting machines. But that's still going on, and she's still the lawyer representing that. How could she possibly serve on the FEC?
It does seem a little conflict of interest. Right. Little conflict of interest there, right?
You think? Just a little? It's terrible. I mean, these people that he's putting out to put on these boards. Who was it? Mayorkas was asked with the one with the chick who did the who's going to be the disinformation czar for the Ministry of Disinformation. That chick. Did you see? You saw her, right? He was asked about her. We talked about this last week. He didn't know anything. Did you Google? At least Google her? No. I'm like, really?
No.
Democrats have no problem just putting out there like, sorry, we're inept. I'm really sorry. We're just terrible at our jobs. And it's seen as a virtue. That's their excuse all the time. I'm inept, but you should vote for me. Remember Hillary Clinton, like, rape it with a cloth? I have no idea what you're talking about. You should vote for me for president. Holy crap.
Who is who is the gentleman on HBO who has the show, who's the Democrat who necessarily screams at
Bill Maher.
Bill Maher calls them corrupt idiots. But Democrats are the party of the corrupt idiots and the Republicans are the criminally insane. That's what he calls Democrats, the corrupt idiots.
Criminally insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you could call the Republicans criminally. They may be insane.
Yeah,
but I
find that fascinating. Corrupt idiots, I still found fascinatingly funny, though. I still thought that fascinating. Either way.
Yeah,
corrupt idiots is pretty. They are very dumb. They are just walking dum-dums at every turn.
I don't think they're dumb.
You think they're smart?
Exactly what they're doing. I think they know exactly what they're doing. Let me just
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Just go to Getter real quick. Ed says the FBI didn't choose not to do anything. They were told not to do anything. The FBI is a political tool, not a law enforcement agency. And we're going to talk about more of that coming up. I've got some interesting news and some video to show you of a whistleblower talking to Project Veritas. It's going to be a theme throughout the show tonight, exactly what Ed's talking about. The U.S. postal system won't do a thing either. They're subsidized by the government. They do what they're told. Then if they don't do what they're told, no money. Voter suppression is only a valid issue when Democrats lose. Amen, Ed. He's 100% right. Let's see.
I love videos.
Oh, we're getting there. Okay. Quickly, let's talk about Ukraine. So the president wanted $33 billion with a B to go to Ukraine because their borders have been invaded. I mean, it's basically what's happening here. I mean, there's a lot of violence going on, but their borders have been invaded, right? But he won't put any money towards our borders, which I find a little odd. And our politicians in all their glory said, you want 33? We're going to give you 40. Why not? Let's just round up. Not 35. We're just going to round up to 40. What the hell? It's other people's money. It's the taxpayers. Don't worry about it. They'll work forever. No big deal. They're fine. $40 billion to Ukraine. What do you think about that?
Seems like an odd turn of events that Republicans have become the I'm worried about the home front, and the Democrats have become the world police. That seems to be an odd turn of events in the universe, isn't it? Seems like in the 80s when the Republicans were the ones worrying about the world and the Democrats were the ones worrying about the home front. What an odd turn of events this is, huh?
Well, the other part of it, if I have my tinfoil hat on, I should really make a hat out of tinfoil so I could wear it here.
I had one of those on this week too, but go ahead.
So here's my thing. Biden didn't want to send arms, tanks, planes, that kind of thing, because we might get the Russians angry. Now, I totally believe that. I don't think he's making the decisions, but he's afraid we're going to get the Russians angry, right? But he's okay with sending pallets of cash, and I'm not quite sure where he learned that from, but he's okay with sending pallets of cash. Didn't he get involved just a little bit with Ukrainian politics back in 2014 when he threatened to withhold the billion that they were going to send, 1 billion, the good old days, that they were going to send to Ukraine, but they had to fire the prosecutor that was investigating the company that his son was sitting on the board of?
There might be a tape of that somewhere. Wasn't there
there might be. That might exist.
That might exist,
yeah. So my brain says, wow, if I'm going to be cynical, my brain says, you know what's weird about that? You would think that maybe Biden wants to send them cash for a reason, because cash is untraceable. Who knows where that cash is going? We don't know what they said they're going to, well, this money, we're giving it to them. And I'll tell you what it's for. Let's see. The wrong story. Okay. So we're spending $40 billion. 13 points and now we're up to almost 54 billion altogether that we've sent Ukraine. 54 billion with a B.
Right.
Billion. Okay?
Now, arms out the yin yang. I mean, we have sent them tanks, arms.
But we didn't send them the planes they wanted when they wanted it, right?
We did not. We didn't let the Polish send them the planes they wanted.
That's true. Right. We didn't let the Polish, because we were going to give the Poles new planes and they were going to get the hand-me-down. So it was like a yard sale.
Like a yard sale. Right.
It was like a swap. You ever go to a swap?
Right. We did the Harry doll. Yeah, they use the shell thing with the thing here and Russian nesting dolls popping out. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Okay. It includes, part of this 40 billion includes 5 billion with a B to address global food shortages caused by the war. Now, Europe, all the European countries combined have given the Ukraine 8 billion.
Okay.
We're up to 50, what did I say it was? 53 billion. Right?
Well,
53 billion.
They're not as rich as we are.
Right. We have to borrow the money from the Chinese to give to the Ukrainians. Why don't the Ukrainians just borrow the money from the Chinese? I feel like when I watch 90 Day Fiance and someone's got a cosign, like if somebody doesn't have enough money.
Can we hold on one second there for a minute?
Yeah.
Can I ask a weird question?
Sure.
why are we borrowing money from the country that's loaning weapons and equipment, and maybe food, to the enemy of Ukraine?
Well, there's also a Biden-China connection, but there's add into that, we're buying oil from Russia, which is going to buy the bullets to fight at the Ukrainians that we're giving the Ukrainian. We're borrowing money from the Chinese so we can give it to the Ukrainians to buy bullets to shoot at the Russians.
I mean,
we're paying everybody.
I mean, I did have to explain to somebody why we're still negotiating with the Russians in Iran. I understand that because that's a nuclear thing, and nuclear arms are a tricky thing. I understand on that level why the two biggest people on the block have to still have conversations. But buying oil and or from the Russians or borrowing money right now from the Chinese does seem troublesome when they're the people. Now, we're not directly fighting the Chinese, and I'm not going to say the Chinese have, let's say, 100% bought into the war of the Ukraine for the Russians, but they're not helping the Ukrainians in any way. And certainly you can make a case that they're helping the Russians on some level. In some, they definitely were. I've been seen sending things into Siberia. So, both of those seem very troublesome. And the Russian oil connection's long been, I mean, we've known that. That's not a secret. I mean, that didn't come out yesterday. But I mean, this does all seem very, I can't use the word R-worded, can I say, in public now? I can't say the word I want to use, but, R-worded, I can say. Talked out, I think I can use as the word from other ways.
Sure.
How does this work?
We pay everybody and no one pays us back. Ed says U.S. money to Ukraine is not about them helping them defeat Russia. It's about Biden paying them hush money, not to expose the Biden family making millions through Hunter and Burisma. Biden business deals, bro. That's why. Don't think for a minute Zelensky didn't tell Biden, give her money or I dime your whole family out.
I don't know how much of a conspiracy theorist I am for all that, and maybe that's it. Maybe it is that simple. I don't know. But either way, international politics are just crazy.
All right. So we're paying $5 billion to address global food shortages. Our babies don't have formula, but we're going to give $5 billion to other countries to help them with food. We have homeless vets. We have Americans who don't have enough food, but we're going to give $5 billion to other countries for this under the guise that because the shortage is caused by the Ukraine war.
I mean, isn't this the same thing as like the pork we always talk about that goes in bills, right? Like, I mean, $5 billion for global shortages is the idea that, like, I understand there's going to be no wheat coming out of Russia and on it, but I mean, we're helping the Ukrainians specifically because we're helping them in the war. I get it, but if we're helping other countries because of the Ukrainian war in a bill, that's insane.
It is. $4 billion is going to go to help Ukraine and allies finance arms and equipment purchases. So now we're like Vinny the loan shark down the street.
Well, Lend-Lease is one thing. I'm not sure what this is. If this isn't Lend-Lease, then I'm not sure what they're talking about.
I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous. I think as long as we have homeless vets, we shouldn't be giving this kind of money to other countries. I get that Ukraine's got a problem, but when our border is not secure and we have people pouring across our border, we know that there are terrorists coming across our border. We're not protecting our own border, but we're going to spend $53 billion to help Ukraine protect theirs.
I don't even think I have the problem fighting the Russians in Ukraine. I don't think that's as much as the issue. I mean, clearly the problem is waste and dum-dums here, right? I mean, don't waste the money by feeding other countries through Ukraine. I mean, fight the Russians and fix the border.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about gas because I said, we're buying oil from Russia, so we're financing the war in Ukraine on both sides because Biden, which is something, I'm sorry, I don't think Donald Trump ever would have done. I just don't think he would finance both sides. I just don't, because we were energy independent when Trump was president, so we wouldn't be giving the Russians money. We could starve them of that money.
Right, 100%.
All right. The Biden administration canceled one of the most high-profile oil and gas lease sales pending before the Department of the Interior. He did that yesterday. The Department of the Interior halted the potential to drill for oil in over 1 million acres in Alaska's Cook Inlet, along with two lease sales in the Gulf of Mexico. So those are two places. Now, what they're saying is, and this makes sense, the Department of the Interior spokesperson told Fox Business today, due to lack of industry interest in leasing in the area, the department will not move forward with the proposed gas and oil leases. So these people, they're saying, well, big oil, they don't want to drill. They don't want to drill. We can't make them drill. They don't want to drill because of the instability in the market. You've said, I want to shut you down. Why would someone spend millions and millions of dollars to explore, to set everything up, to figure out where they want to drill, to do all of that, when you've told them, I'm going to shut you down? Let's see. They will not move forward with the lease sales in the Gulf of Mexico as a result of delays due to factors including conflicting court rulings that impacted the work on these proposed lease sales. Gee, now why are there court rulings? Let's find out. A source familiar with the Cook Inlet lease, that's Alaska, confirmed to Fox Business that the DOI received no comments indicating specific company interest in leasing during the scoping period. Within his first week in office, Biden signed an executive order temporarily suspending new oil and gas leases on federal land. The administration resumed the new leasing net last month following court challenges on the ban, but the administration's appealing that ruling. So why would you want to start? You have to pay for the lease. And like I said, you have all these costs in preparation to run up to drilling, but they're fighting this ruling that says that the ban was illegal, that you can't ban it. So what they effectively did is very smart. They go, well, we said you could have this millions of acres of land. You could drill, and look at this, in the Gulf of Mexico, you drill in Alaska, go ahead, drill, baby, drill. Only to find out, well, no, you didn't, because you're challenging it in court, and I could put all this money in and then be shut down. So
Right.
That's the game that they're playing.
Good times.
I dropped all my papers, sorry.
That's
yeah.
right.
So
anyways,
that's what's happening. And then there's another one where it was banned and they're not fighting that. So they said the problem in Alaska was that the Greens scared off virtually everyone. It's expensive to explore and drill, and the Greens made it pretty clear they were going to make it even more difficult. I blame Biden for all lack of production. He has scared away investment.
Fun times.
Yeah. Why would anybody do that?
Right.
Ed says close everyone's border except ours. Yeah. So this again would not be happening under Trump, but it's fine. And that's why when you want to know how come your gas is on its way to $5 a gallon, if Russia shuts off this OPEC, remember when OPEC wouldn't even talk to Biden? He's begging other countries to produce oil, which have lower standards for environmental concerns. Then you've got to put it in a cargo container and ship it across the country, which is dangerous because you could have oil spills. You're burning oil on the cargo containers, right? You're burning fuel to get it here.
God,
when we have it here, it doesn't make any sense to me. All right, along those lines, this is the best. You ready? And coming up, we're going to talk about baby formula. But right now, I want to talk about hurricanes. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration did a study. And here's what they found. They found that cleaner air leads to more hurricanes in the Atlantic.
Wait, say it again?
Cleaner air leads to more hurricanes in the Atlantic. Would you like to know how? Let me tell you how. Okay. Too many politicians. I can't read. There's an arrow in the way. Okay. Hurricane. All right. So this NOAA hurricane scientist. Well, here's what they did. They found a 50% decrease in pollution particles and droplets in Europe and the US, and they've linked it to a 33% increase in Atlantic storm formation for the past couple of decades. The opposite is happening in the Pacific because they have more pollution because of India and China and all those countries. So they have more pollution, and they've seen a drop in typhoons. So somebody at the the NOAA said, I'm going to look into this. He found a link to aerosol pollution from industry and cars, sulfur particles and droplets in the air that make it hard to breathe and see. The aerosol pollution cools the air, at times reducing the larger effects of the greenhouse gases from burning fossil fuels. So that's great. We're getting rid of global warming. Remember when they got rid of all the aerosol cans for a long time? You can only, right? Because that
CFCs,
affects,
yeah.
Right. So, but it reduces the effects of the greenhouse gases from burning fossil fuel. Earlier studies had mentioned there could be a possibility, and there could be a link between this and Atlantic storms. So hurricanes need warm water for fuel and are harmed by wind shear. Cleaner air in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, dirtier air in the Pacific mess with both of those things. So in the Atlantic, aerosol pollution peaked around 1980, and it has been dropping steadily since. That means the cooling that masked some of the greenhouse gas warming is going away. So sea surface temperatures are increasing. All right. Yeah. So we got rid of the aerosols, the CFCs, back in the 80s. Remember Aquanet, big hair?
Yeah.
Oh, I have a picture. I should show it to you. I had.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Oh, Jersey girl hair.
Jersey girl hair. I remember that. Oh, I remember that.
Because of the Aquanet, it was polluting. And remember, we had the hole. Remember the hole in the atmosphere?
Yeah, the hole in the ozone. Yeah.
So we got rid of that. So now we've got global warming, which is increasing the temperature. So the sea surface temperatures are increasing even more. So you're getting more hurricanes.
Yeah.
And then the Atlantic has gone pretty much crazy since the mid 90s. And that's why it was so quiet in the 70s and 80s. Where's this? They're also becoming more intense. And on top of that, the lack of cooling aerosols have helped to push the jet stream further north. And that reduces the wind shear, because the further north you go, I guess there's less wind shear. And that has been dampening, that the wind shear helped dampen hurricane formation. It would go north and it would kind of like peter out, or it would get pushed out to sea. Well, now they're going further north, and the wind shear apparently is not taking them apart. So it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious. So it's going to be interesting to see. Ed says Hunter Biden must have invested in the Atlantic Hurricane Company. All right. Secret payments to the NIH coming up. But first, baby formula. And I know I'm running through these, but I want to try to keep this show short. We're going to run over as it is. So did you see the story today that a whistleblower at the border has been a border agent for 30 years? It told Representative Kat Kamek from Florida, sent her pictures and video of shipments that are coming into these migrant detention centers. They're really just processing centers. We don't detain anybody, but they're processing centers. Pallets of diapers and baby formula for the infants, for the babies of the illegals who are coming into our country illegally. But American babies don't have formula.
Good stuff.
Yeah. More than 100 House Republicans have called on the Biden administration to figure this out, but it's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's the Putin. Figure it out. He blames it on everybody. So he's blamed gas prices on Russia, Putin price hike, and Trump, Republicans, everybody. He blames it on somebody always different.
Well, maybe the guy he was turning to shake hands with the other day after that speech maybe that's who he was negotiating with.
Maybe that's who it was. Yeah. But yeah, so she posted pictures to social media of empty shelves in Florida. And then the image that this Border Patrol agent sent her, it comes from the Ursula processing facility in Texas. Thousands are being housed, processed, and released. And he said to her, "You would not believe the shipment I just brought in." So if you can't find baby formula, I had a friend whose nephew was looking for baby formula, and she posted on Facebook, "If you could get me, I'll pay you for it. I just need baby formula." Apparently, fly to Mexico, walk across the border, and they'll give you as much as you want.
I didn't even know it was hard to find on the shelves, but that's sad to find out. Who knew?
Oh yeah, there's empty shelves, pictures everywhere. People can't find baby formula.
Jesus.
All right, coming up next, we're going to talk about Elon Musk. He's caught the eye of the establishment. But this is an interesting story. This comes out
Yeah,
of
they don't
the
like
Epic.
him.
No, they don't. Now they don't. They loved him. They loved him until he was all about free speech, and then they're like, "You're an insurrectionist." The links to all these stories will be in the description when we get off the air. I put everything in there. I'll put it up. So if you want to read any of these stories, because I'm kind of running through them, feel free. And you're going to watch, we're going to be showing a Project Veritas video coming up. You're going to want to see the whole video. I'm just taking pieces of it. It's scary. And it goes to what Ed said about the FBI and they're not what they used to be. Let's go ahead and say it's not your father's GOP, not your father's Republican Party. This is not my father's FBI either. It's been weaponized. So according to the Epic Times, an estimated $350 million in undisclosed royalties, were paid to the National Institutes of Health and their scientists, including Dr. Francis Collins, who just left, and Dr. Fauci. Open the Books, which is a nonpartisan, group that looks at, does all these open records. They're kind of like Judicial Watch.
Okay.
So the CEO told reporters in a news conference, we draw the conclusion of 350 million because in the first 5 years, there's been 134 million that we've been able to quantify of top line numbers that flowed from third party payers, meaning pharmaceutical companies or other payers, to NIH scientists. We now know that there are 1,675 scientists that received payments during that period, at least one 2010 to 2014. In fiscal year 2014, 36 million was paid out. That is on average 21,100 per scientist.
Man, they're doing some great work apparently.
They're wonderful. Francis Collins, the immediate past director of the NIH, received 14 payments. Now, I don't know if that's 21,100 per payment or if it's just the total on average altogether. Because
if you only made $21,000, I'm like, oh, well, you didn't do great work, but that's per.
I think it's per payment, right? Fauci received 23. His deputy received 8. The top 5 NIH employees, in terms of royalty payments that they received on the payroll, are also listed in this. The National Cancer Institute, one guy got 271 payments.
A lot of conspiracies on Fauci. I just think he's just sort of a long-term career political guy who just doesn't want to get sued and doesn't want people realizing how much money he's made working for the government. I don't think he's, the evil guy who's probably trying to poison our country. I don't think that. But I do think he's a guy who's probably connected to this thing in some way that he doesn't want to get sued. He certainly doesn't want you to know he's probably connected to it in a way that he's made some money on it. I'm sure of that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure of that.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But I do find the conspiracies pretty funny. They make me laugh.
They're fun to talk through. Ebola outbreak says, what about the Ebola scientists in Texas? Texas is researching how Ebola spreads, also injecting it into monkeys to create new Ebola vaccines for people. I kind of thought Ebola died, it just went out because it was so potent that it killed the host too quickly. But if they are injecting it into monkeys in Texas, what could possibly go wrong?
Well, that's when when Rand Paul was talking about all that gain of function research and all this stuff that's going on. Right. And I don't pretend to know exactly what was going on in any of those labs per se, or even the bio thing that was going on in Ukraine. Look, we all know that they do various forms of biological research, weapons of mass destruction research, and any of these things to find out how to fight viruses or biological weapons or counter weapons of these kind of forms, right? I'm just guessing on some form that Fauci was involved in one of these of some way, right? I mean, and that when this all came up, he was covering his butt, right? Because he was involved in some way and was making money on it like all these people do. And, when it came up, he went, hey, let's not tell anybody that I'm a government employee tied to some kind of research.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I think all this stuff works. I never believe it's he's trying to destroy the earth and
Right. I don't
kill
think he's
billions of
Dr.
people.
Evil.
Right, because he's connected to 5G India media, Hollywood elite for pedophile rings or whatever mess Q stuff was going on.
Well,
thought,
they say when an NIH employee makes a discovery in their official capacity, the NIH owns the rights to any resulting patent. The same thing back at Bell Labs back in the day when they had all those scientists in New Jersey. Remember,
Sure.
down in Lyndhurst. Lyndhurst? I don't know. It was further south. I can't remember. Oh, it's going to drive me crazy. But anyway, near Homedale.
Lindenhurst?
Homedale.
Yeah, Homedale. Yeah.
They had that was like the
Lyndhurst,
brain
yeah.
center. That was Bell Labs brain center. It was all these crazy smarts, and all they did was invent stuff. But the patent and it all belonged to Bell Labs. So same thing with the NIH. The patents are then licensed for commercial use to companies that can use them to bring the products to the market. Employees are listed as inventors on the patents and receive a share of the royalties obtained through licensing or technology transfer of their inventions. Essentially, taxpayer money funding NIH research, because we pay for it, benefits researchers employed by the NIH because they're listed as the patent inventors, and then they receive the royalties from the licenses. Taxpayers get nothing.
Right. Oh, by the way, I'm going to circle back. You asked what could go wrong. COVID-19.
Yeah.
That's what can go wrong.
That's
yeah.
So very quickly, he said they're receiving 300 pages of line-by-line data that are, quote, heavily redacted. So they're not telling us who is making these donations to these NIH scientists. So yeah, he says the CEO of Open the Book says we believe there is an unholy conflict of interest inherent at the NIH. Consider the fact that each year the NIH doles out $32 billion in grants to approximately 56,000 grantees. Now we know that over an 11-year period, there's going to be approximately $350 million flowing the other way from third-party payers, many of which receive NIH grants. And those payments are flowing back to the NIH. So we pay for the grants. At the NIH, they decide who to give the grants to. A lot of people who receive the grants then pay money back to the scientists because of the invention that we funded, and then the money goes into their pocket.
That almost seems like a Ponzi scheme.
Everything the government does is a Ponzi scheme.
Pounds it down, you sell the thing. Yeah.
So Ed says Fauci is a government pawn. Go as far back as AIDS in the 80s. He spews whatever narrative the current administration tells him to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's a government guy. He was tied up with money. Yeah. That's tracks.
Yeah. Here we go. All right, coming up, we're gonna do the Project Veritas video very quickly.
Yay.
Elon Musk has hit the big time. The Security and Exchange Commission is probing his tardy submission of a public form that investors must file when they buy more than 5% of a company's share. It was 10 days late. So now they're investigating him.
Bad Elon. Yeah.
See,
he's so angry.
They still haven't investigated the Black Lives Matter founders and those houses that they bought that were supposedly with money that were donated to Black Lives Matter, and one of them used it for a birthday party for her son and all this other stuff. They didn't file any forms. Well, there were some forms they didn't file. Let's put it that way. I'm not going to say any, but there were some forms that they didn't file for charitable organizations. But there's a big brouhaha over missing files. But I don't think there's been an investigation into him. But Elon Musk, 10 days late, dude. Yeah. He is now being investigated.
I'm sure he's concerned.
Right. Let me see how I do this here. I've got to figure this out. So just bear with me. I am going to share. I've got instructions. Hubby gave me instructions. Okay. There it is. And share, and we go here. There it is. Look at that. I did it. Is it there?
Hey!
It's there, right? Yay. Okay.
Yay.
So
I got
a text last night from Project Veritas that this was coming out. And do you remember that the FBI raided a bunch of their employees? A lot of the journalists at Project Veritas raided their homes and took their phones and this and that and everything else. Well, they sued over that. And The problem is when they went to the government with this, they were told by the government's filing stated that Project Veritas is not engaged in journalism with any traditional accepted definition of the word because its reporting is non-consensual. So in other words, you don't toe the government line, you're engaged in disinformation. So you're not journalists, because they said you can't do this to journalists. We're journalists, we should be protected. Okay. So the government said, you're not journalists. So
okay.
a whistleblower from the FBI, listen to this, Ed, a whistleblower from the FBI comes forward and provides them with a document that was that they opened an investigation. The FBI opened an investigation into Project Veritas, knowing full well that they were journalists because the document is labeled under a, quote, news media classification, despite the government saying, no, we can raid you because you're not journalists. But yet the FBI, according to this whistleblower, launched an investigation into Project Veritas and put it under the news media category. He said he came to Project Veritas because the direction that the agency has headed troubles a vast majority of the agents. Now, this happened, remember, in connection with Ashley Biden's diary, which someone gave to Project Veritas, and they didn't publish it. They didn't say anything about it. They turned it over to law enforcement, said, look, oh no, it was left in a hotel. Remember, she left it in a hotel.
Oh, yeah.
The Bidens leave a lot of stuff around. They leave a lot of stuff around. And she left this in a hotel. Project Veritas has it. They got it. And they're like, I don't know if this is real. They said, we don't know if it's real. We don't know if it was gotten, legitimately. We're not going to do anything with this. We're not dealing with this. And they turned it over to law enforcement. For that, they were raided because they're not journalists, which makes no sense because they did the right thing with it. So here's James O'Keefe doing an interview with this agent, and I'm going to start and stop this a couple of times, but I just want you to listen to what he has to say here. Let's hope this works.
You've been a special agent for a number of years.
Correct.
Special agent with the FBI.
That's correct. I've worked in counterintelligence, counterterrorism. I've worked criminal.
What brought you to Project Veritas? Why are you here?
There's a number of very troubling things that are happening within the FBI. And I would say that the direction that the agency has headed troubles a vast majority of the agents. Project Veritas appears to be a victim of political undertakings, which is where this agency has gone.
You came across some information. Can you tell me a little more about that?
The file that you're talking about is background on the Project Veritas investigation that resulted in the search warrant at your premises. There's a number of things on there that are alerting, and they don't necessarily make sense for the type of organization or agency that you are.
First of all, what can you say about how you came across or acquired this?
This was given to me by a colleague who was interested and also sympathetic to the fact that it appears that there's a political vendetta against your organization.
And what leads you or him or her to believe that there's a political vendetta?
We don't see a lot of investigations into news organizations. It's not common. The ones that are almost specifically tied to threat countries that we would be investigating for intelligence purposes. To see a criminal investigation, particularly one categorized the way that this is alerting, and it's surprising based on the public information that is provided.
What does SIM mean on this document? It says SIM News Media.
So SIM is a classification that means it's a sensitive investigative matter. And that basically affords the subject of the investigation with certain protections internally. Because it's sensitive, it could be a political figure, it could be someone in a church or a religious figure, it could be a news media organization.
Who makes the classification that we're news media?
It would be done in the FBI's office, specific to the investigation. It would usually be identified as by the case agents who are working it. Based on the prominence of that individual, there's going to be a higher level of supervision to sign off on authorizing a case. And it's also done in conjunction with the chief division counsel of that field office, who's going to be the top internal lawyer.
Title restricted, access denied. Why is that?
So once you are designated as a SIM, the information is going to be restricted from the rest of the FBI's search capabilities. That title would normally be the name of the subject, the name of the victim, the name of the type of crime that is being alleged, if these things exist. In this case, it's restricted because even the name of the subject would indicate the nature of what was going on.
Have you ever heard of this happening before? An investigation like this into the news media of this nature?
I'm not aware of any.
56D, what is that in reference to?
56D is a classification of the type of investigation. So that alphanumeric specifically refers to federal election crimes. But there's any number of classifications that follow all manner of both intelligence investigations and then also criminal investigations.
And in this case, it was a story potentially about a diary. So maybe the audience is wondering, what does it have to do with an election crime?
This
Right.
this document does not answer that. I think
Okay.
it's a question that a lot of people within the Bureau would probably also be curious to know.
So let's go first to CAST. What is that in reference to?
CAST is an internal program in the FBI that uses sophisticated techniques to exploit cell phone data for location and for content. It can be used with geofence warrants. It can be used in conjunction with cell phone tower dumps, IDs, Wi-Fi network pings. And it's basically looking for location, and it's looking for time and distance with phone numbers.
So that's exactly what
Wow.
they did. That's exactly what they did with January 6th, right? But it was a diary. Why is it under election fraud? Why would they be listing that with Project Veritas?
Yeah, that's a little bonkers. That is that's pretty intense, actually.
I knew you would like this.
That seems real. That sounds. I know this
Violence
sounds like
alarm.
out of
Sorry.
a spy movie,
I know.
doesn't it? It literally sounds like you're listening to a spy movie.
Into their vehicles and could
I don't know why this is
I
playing. Sorry.
think they
No, it's okay.
I don't know why it's playing.
report
That's intense.
in it, but I imagine it.
Yeah. It goes on, and I'm going to continue here. But for the record, just in case anybody would, I got permission from Project Veritas to play this. They said no
Thank you,
problem.
Project
No
Veritas.
copyright infringement. I have it in writing. It's good.
Thank you, Project Veritas. But I mean, wow, that's intense.
It is, and it goes on, and the reason there just seems to be a theme throughout the show tonight with the stories about the FBI acting almost the FBI lying to the DOJ, like
Right?
with the whole Trump thing. The FBI seems to be a rogue agency at this point in the game. All right, let's continue.
It has to do with CNN.
Going down to Sentinel tags,
Mhm.
HQ, CID.
So HQ refers to the Hoover Building. That's the folks at FBI headquarters. CID is Criminal Investigation Division.
And it lists a series of things: violence, extortion, coercion, liberty, activity. What does that mean?
So these are threat tags. They're going to tag analysts to take a look at the documents that are being produced in this investigation. And I think they mean exactly what they say on their face. But why they mean that regarding your organization is outside of my understanding. I don't see things like this. This was chosen by the people who opened up this case. They had to specifically list the threat tags that they wanted to identify.
Why the word?
So violence.
Yeah,
Violent?
that's what I was going to ask. How are they possibly violent?
And that, again, this is just what kills me with this whole thing is that this, I don't know. I just think this is really scary. And Project Veritas is I think they're a very good organization. I think they do good work. I think that they take a lot of risks, and I give them credit for it. Look at what they did, with some of the whistleblowers that they had before the election. And
Yeah.
with the Democrats, I mean, it was incredible the information they get, and it is ignored by the mainstream media. That's how, in my world, I know that it's good information because it's ignored. Look, they got sued because of remember the whole thing about the baby parts, aborted baby parts being bought by the U.S. government or being sold by the U.S. government. Remember that, by being sold by allegedly by Planned Parenthood and being bought by the U.S. government. I remember that story. They got sued over that one.
Maybe
big.
that's why they're labeled violent.
They're not.
Am I missing something? I mean, have they ever actually been associated with anything considered violent that you know of? Have they ever were they part of January 6th in any way? Were they there
Nope.
marching? Were they
Nope.
sending representatives in with the camera? Like, we're here for January 6th, filming it just for prosperity.
Nope.
I don't know. Are they in Syria? I can't imagine how do you get labeled violent if you're not holding guns or breaking down windows. I don't.
Well, if you're exposing the deep state, they don't. That's considered violence to them. Remember, silence is violence. Words are violent. This is the scary part. And
Words are very violent. Sure. Yeah. They might have called somebody a dum-dum.
There you go. This is where it gets into the piece that I've been talking about through this whole show about the FBI being, I think, becoming a rogue agency if it is not already, and is more powerful than Congress, the judiciary, and the presidency put together. Listen to this.
Which is to say, knowledge about things, and they continue to propagate for the sake of knowledge itself. And the knowledge doesn't have to be actionable. It doesn't have to be operational. What we'd call tactical information. It could just be knowledge have now forever logged in a computer system. And so that doesn't require that you've done anything wrong. Simply by being the virtue of your position in your job, depending on your job, by being an American citizen who may travel, like your ancestry, these could be easily justified under a classified appendix that exists under the document that you're looking at there, which is called the DIOG. That's the governing dynamic for the FBI. It's the
DIOG.
The DIOG. That's the Domestic Investigation Operations Guide.
A classified appendix in DIOG provides the one paragraph justification for spying on anyone
if used unscrupulously. So the justification takes very little work. Whether it gets approved or not is another answer. I can't say that anybody would be approved to have a case on them. You generally have to write it out. It's in the bureau they talk about. It's not what you did. It's what you wrote.
So what he just said there is that it is investigation for it's the acquiring of knowledge, the accumulation of knowledge for knowledge's sake. So what he's saying is that they just do these collections of data. Just that they have, collection of data for whatever reason, and it doesn't take much in order to get a case opened. All you have to do is word it properly.
Boy, it sounds like some real J. Edgar Hoover stuff, doesn't it?
It really does, and it's sad because I think Americans used to think of the FBI pretty highly, and
right, like we got past that Red Scare stuff, right? This sounds like the Red Scare era stuff.
And I think it's all back now. I think people would be I personally, and this is saying nothing about the rank and file, because these people are coming forward and saying, look, and this information was given to him by someone else who was very scared about what they saw going on and upset about what they saw going on, because I think Project Veritas does a good job and is a legit organization. And so they passed it on. Here's just one more piece here about the power of the FBI.
Shrug and say, we already knew this already.
Everybody assumes the government's looking into fill in the blank. This is the standard thing. Well, the government's looking into my phone. They can hear my conversations.
Right.
That may or may not be true. There certainly are people whose conversations are being captured. But what people don't think about is this. When you open up an intelligence investigation, you have an entire suite of tools. You can write secret subpoenas called NSLs that you'll never know about. The government can pull your bank records. They can find out who you were talking to on your phone. They can look at your social media.
What's an NSL?
It's a national security letter.
And we'll never know about that.
Never. So the predication of the national security letter is classified secret. It's hidden for 25 years. It's not going anywhere. No one's going to read it outside.
To what end are they doing that?
For the purpose of information. The end is itself.
And they could do this to journalists.
They could do this to anybody. And
they can do this to anybody. The purpose is the knowledge itself.
Yeah, I don't know that this part is completely secret. Like, then we find out they were investigating like John Lennon in the 70s and stuff. But I think we're just disturbed that it's maybe still going on, or that it's in the information age. How easy it would be for them to right now just really like track you, find you, find out everything about you. I mean, Mary, remember we talked about this back in the day. Do you remember? It had to be 2015. Just to get in, you used to do your show from the house, and I would be here at the station. and we used to have to talk over Messenger. And I remember I had Messenger up, and I was on eBay at the same time. And on the breaks, I would be shopping for like symbols. And I remember all the way back then, a symbol I was looking at the same time came up as an ad on Facebook. Like right away, like, you still want to buy this? And I remember in 2015 marveling at the technology, like, they're tracking you that fast. And think about it, we've gone 7 years since, right? I mean, you know that, like, the FBI easily, and you know, like, we all probably watch the same kind of shows. I mean, if in the technology in the shows, they can track your phone through every camera and thing on the planet, and that's in the TV shows, imagine what they can really do.
Oh, that 2,000 mules. That's how they got all the information. These are private citizens. Yet the government tells me that they can't find the guy who placed the bombs outside the DNC and the RNC on January 5th, who was just hanging out, sitting on it. They got pictures of the guy sitting on a bench, talking on a phone. We don't know that he got out of a truck. We saw the van that he got out of. We don't know the license plate on that. BS. You don't find.
Or what happened to Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. What happened to Jeff? Right. Whatever happened to that? Whatever happened to the guy in Las Vegas, the shooter, that guy who just shot into that music festival, right? That guy.
Oh yeah.
Whatever happened to that? Oh well, nobody knows what happened. His girlfriend's not talking. Oh well. Really? I don't know. I'm not buying it. Ed says, and there you have it. Peter Strzok, anyone? Seems that there's always a political vendetta against organizations that tell the truth. If the FBI wants to go after an organization for misinformation, they should start with the Washington Post. You need a CDW, communications data warrant, to get the info he just described, unless you're the FBI, of course. Then you just get everyone's info whenever you want. None of this surprises me at all. We call this corruption. The FBI calls it a normal Monday. It's not how you did it, it's how you write it. Yep, that's what the guy said. That's the catch-all. If they want something that they have no real justification to get, they pull the national security card. James, this has been going on forever. This is not new. It just seems new now because it's finally coming out.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Absolutely. He's absolutely right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Patrick, talking about the piece of tape over the camera lenses. I do that. There's one over every single computer in our home, over the camera. We put a piece of tape.
I have a buddy who works for the NSA. He's not a field agent. He's just some computer techie kind of guy, and whatever. He's a mid-level manager now. So I can assure you, if they were coming for me or anybody I know, they would have gotten us years ago. So I don't worry about the camera over the thing. I'm sure they're not listening for me. At best, it's the other way. It's been really helpful. I come home on my YouTube now, and the videos I want to watch or I think that are most helpful are already coming up in my queue. I don't even have to search. It's great. So I just leave my mic and camera on. It's great.
I just want to continue here with a story from the Epic Times. Newly released notes that were taken by high-level DOJ officials during a March 6, 2017 meeting with FBI leadership. Now, we know the FBI lied to the DOJ. Durham's already released that, right? We already know that.
Right.
He says the notes were released on May 8th by lawyers representing Michael Sussman. This is the whole Durham thing. We're finding a lot about that, the stuff that's coming out.
Right.
Because he is charged with having lied to the FBI. The meeting at which the notes were taken took place just 2 days after a tweet that Donald Trump put out March 4th, 2017. In that tweet, he accused Barack Obama of having wiretapped Trump Tower. Remember that when that came out, and he said that he was being wiretapped by Barack Obama. And I remember the left, they don't wiretap anymore. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. He's so stupid. He's so dumb. They weren't wiretapping Trump Tower. They don't wiretap anything. Trump's tweet panicked the FBI leadership, who were unsure exactly how much Trump knew about their efforts to tie him up with Russian collusion allegations. So they panicked when he put that tweet out. By March 2017, according to these notes that were given to Durham by Michael Sussman to try to prove something totally differently, this is also in those notes. FBI leadership, by this time they had this meeting, already knew that the Trump-Russia collusion claims were a hoax. They knew that the Clinton campaign had a plan to smear Trump by portraying him as a puppet of Putin. The FBI also knew that not a single claim in the Steele dossier had checked out. So they already knew this. At that point, the FBI had already spent 3 days interviewing Igor Danchenko, who is this primary source for the Steele dossier, who pretty much disavowed everything in the dossier to them. So they already knew all of this. They also knew that the Alpha Bank story, which is what Durham's dealing with now, was bogus. So they knew they had nothing on Trump, right? But then Trump tweets out that, they wiretapped Trump Tower. He did that on March 4th. That set off alarm bells with both the FBI and the DOJ leadership. Trump's tweets so alarmed those officials that the topic dominated the meeting 2 days later. That in that meeting, FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe and Acting U.S. Attorney General Dina Buente. The problem for the FBI, according to Epoch Times, they didn't know how much Trump actually knew. On March 3rd, Mark Levin had reported that the Obama administration got the FISA warrant that involved Trump and several of his campaign advisors. And Levin also reported that when Trump joked in 2016, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find the 30,000 missing emails. Remember the left lost their mind over that? He's asking Putin to help him. Say he's asking Putin to help him. That was a joke. It was a joke. But as we now know, the FBI was spying on the Trump campaign and the incoming Trump administration transition communications. The FBI had not only spied on Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, but George Papadopoulos, when they lured him to London, where they tried to set him up and it didn't work out, in a sting, and it didn't work out. There were also new false accusations brought forward by Sussman that Trump was tied to that Yoda phone thing. And there was a matter of Rodney Jaffe, with deep ties to the FBI, who had been using his access to non-public data, FBI, to spy on Trump, both at Trump Tower and the White House. He was spying for Hillary Clinton to try to break this whole Russian collusion thing. But the FBI knew all of it was BS. Trump probably didn't know. He probably knew about the FISA warrant thing, but they had to assume that he knew a lot more because of the tweet when he said they wiretapped me. And maybe he did. Maybe he knew a heck of a lot more. McCabe kicked the meeting off, stating that the Bureau was trying to determine what was behind that tweet. That's the first line in the meeting notes. The notes were released because one of the notes appears to show that McCabe stated that Sussman had represented clients when Sussman claims he did not. The first reaction from FBI leadership appears to have been to tell the acting attorney general, Dana Buente, a sequence of lies about the investigation. So now they try to lie to get out of this. The notes reveal the FBI repeatedly referred to Steele's dossier as Crown reporting when they knew it was all BS. They knew it was all crap. Crown reporting suggests that the dossier represented some sort of official UK government intelligence when they knew it was all made up. Igor Danchenko had already told them that. The new notes also revealed that Peter Strzok, there you go, Ed, you mentioned Peter Strzok, lied to his DOJ superiors about what triggered Alexander Downer, the Australian ambassador in London that they tried to set Papadopoulos up with, remember, to meet with Downer. Yep, remember? It's all coming together now, kids. What triggered Alexander Downer to come forward to the FBI with information regarding his meeting with Papadopoulos? Like, okay, why would you come forward with that information? Because they set Papadopoulos up to meet with Downer, so he could then come forward and say, "I got to tell you about this Trump associate." That's what they did. It's always been it's always been the official story that it was Downer who initiated the Trump-Russia investigation. But now with the new notes, that's not true. Downer had come forward before Trump made the joke about Russia, if you're listening. So that was even before that. So it had nothing to do with this. So there's more in this story. It's excellent. It's new DOJ notes reveal FBI panic. It's from Epoch Times. I'm going to put it in the notes at the bottom. You could read the whole thing for yourself. There's a lot more to it. Super involved, as you know. I was trying to explain it, and there's a bunch of missing pieces. But listen, they did a lot to try to, make this fly. And luckily, a lot of it is coming to fruition now. Somebody posted Sutton in Latin, and I have no idea what it is. Imperium
Dominus
tuum non
Ominus?
et amicus tuus. I took Latin for 2 years and got straight A's, but it's been a long time.
Thanks, James.
So. But thanks. I have no idea what you're saying there. All right, quickly, very quickly. South Carolina man, did you hear this story? A man named Joseph McKinnon. He's 60, or he was 60. He apparently killed Patricia Dent, 65, inside their home in South Carolina, Trenton, South Carolina. According to the sheriff's office, deputies responded to the residence over reports of, quote, an unresponsive male lying in the yard. Okay.
All righty.
When they arrived, they found McKinnon laying in the yard. Medical crews were called to the scene. They tried to revive him. During the investigation, deputies found a second body in a freshly dug pit. They find this pit in the yard near where Denton is lying. And they go, oh, well, so they dig in the pit and they find Patricia Dent, who lived with them. It seems that Joseph McKinnon had a cardiac event while covering the pit. He dug the pit, he killed her, he threw her in it, and it was such a strain on his heart that he had a heart attack and died next to the grave that he had just thrown his girlfriend in after killing her. I'm sorry to laugh. I feel sorry for the victim's family. I really, truly do. But holy, you don't believe in karma? How do you hear that and not believe in karma?
Yeah, that is some definite karma.
An autopsy determined she died by strangulation. Mr. McKinnon then bound her and wrapped her in trash bags before putting her in the previously dug pit.
Wow.
All right. 2 more quick stories and then we're out because we're running really late. But at the end of the show, you know, I like to do some of these just weird stories and things that aren't political.
Go ahead.
And you might have heard this story. I saw this and I was like, holy crap. So there's a guy in Michigan who took his Jeep to the Jeep dealership. Did you hear the story in Rochester Hills? Okay. In March of 2020 for a routine oil change. So he gives him the keys. Here's my car. The guy goes out, he gets the car, brings it in, puts it on the thing. And the guy's sitting in the waiting area with the bag coffee and, you know, the view on the TV in the waiting room, getting his oil changed.
Right.
And so they had done the oil change and they had the Jeep up on the lift and they have to run it to see if there's an oil leak, which you know all about, sure. James.
I do know a little about that.
All about. So this is this is going to scare you. So
it's right home.
The 19-year-old kid turns the car, pushes the clutch down, turns the car on to get it. So it starts, he lets the clutch go. What happens?
Pop.
When you let the clutch go.
Yeah. Cool.
The car jumps forward, right?
Yeah. Pop. Yeah.
Well, the car jumped forward and pinned Jeffrey Hawkins, a married 42-year-old father of 4, between the Jeep and a wall and kills him.
Killed him. Oh, I saw a different video where somebody didn't die, but yeah. Oh,
no, he was killed.
Oh no! Just from the jump? Just from the pop? Really? I've seen the clutch pups make little jumps. Being that hard killed him.
Well, the kid was driving the Jeep, so I think what happened is he was sitting in it, I guess, and he pushed the clutch, and to make the engine go, he pushed the gas, and when he let go of the clutch, it went forward.
Yeah.
And so the guy who owns the Jeep, who was in the waiting room, is being sued. Because, listen to this. So the 19-year-old who was hired by the dealership doesn't have a license and can't drive a stick.
But
so the man's family, Jeffrey Hawkins' family, can't sue the dealership because in Michigan, an injured coworker cannot sue the boss because of the boss's negligence, which is insane.
Yeah, that's a weird get around, huh? That's
right?
Lucky get around there. I'm good.
In this case, the boss is negligent, obviously. is negligent because they hired someone who didn't know how to drive a stick and didn't even have a driver's license. So a guy who doesn't know how to drive a stick should not be behind the wheel of a stick if you don't know how to drive it.
How do you even get a job as working as a mechanic or anywhere in a
Right.
bay if you, first off, don't know how to drive a stick, and B, don't have a license?
Right. Shouldn't have been hired. But
Right.
the family can't sue because it's not that in Michigan, you can't sue the boss because of his negligence.
That's
So
wild.
even though the boss was negligent, the victim's family can't hold him responsible. Instead, they had to seek out workers' comp, which they did. Under workers' comp, the family will receive wages and medical based on his dependents and how much he made at the time of his death. Okay, so that's what it's going to be based on. Because the death involved a car, there's a statute known as the owner's liability statute. That means the owner of the car is legally responsible. So if the owner gave permission to the driver to drive the car, the owner is negligent. When the Jeep driver gave his keys to the employee who was driving, he gave permission to the employee to drive the car. That makes the owner legally responsible and is automatically liable for the driver's negligence.
It's no wonder our country's going to dissolve because there's some dumb law in the books that makes that somehow make any sense whatsoever.
Lawyers.
Lawyers destroying the country.
They said it would be the same if you took your car to a restaurant with a valet and you handed the keys over. Under state law, the valet driver injures someone with your car, you're responsible. Now, thank God that's state law in Michigan. So remember whole Ferris Bueller's Day Off with the, with the valets and they took the car? Under the law, Hawkins' family's only remedy is to seek workers' compensation because he was injured and ultimately killed on the job. That, though, prevents the family from being able to sue the boss despite the boss being clearly negligent. Okay. The owner of the car is always responsible for the negligence of the driver, even if the owner doesn't know the driver. The owner of the Jeep, though, has some options. He has sued the dealership for indemnity. That means if the judge rules against him, against the owner of the car, the dealership pays the balance of whatever his insurance doesn't pay. Okay. In that separate lawsuit, a judge has ruled that the dealership must provide indemnity for the Jeep owner. But now that the dealership has been ordered to provide indemnity, the attorney for the dealership is now representing the Jeep owner in the trial. So he doesn't even have his own lawyer. He's got to use the Jeep dealer's lawyer because they're going to be footing the bill.
But it's like buying oil from Russia. This is just bonkers.
And the dealership is appealing the indemnity ruling. So his lawyer is saying, we don't think that we should be responsible for it. We think you should.
Wow.
If the Michigan Court of Appeals rules that the judge's decision on indemnity was incorrect, the Jeep owner would be responsible for the financial payout owed to the family if the judge rules in favor of the family. They're suing for $15 million. The insurance company of the Jeep owner has already paid out $100,000. If everything stands the way it is now, with indemnity in place, and the jury awards the family the full $15 million, the dealership would be responsible for the remaining $14.9 million. However, workers' comp also has a stake since they've already paid out some money to the family.
That's crazy. This is nuts.
If they had just hired someone confident, this wouldn't be happening.
None of this would be happening. Yep.
Workers' compensation has a lien on the outcome of the trial. Regardless of the ruling, workers' comp will be owed the money that they've already paid out. So they get paid first. If indemnity is overturned, the owner of the Jeep would be fully responsible for the money awarded to the Hawkins family. It's insane. It's insanity. This poor guy is like sitting in the waiting room drinking bad coffee, being forced to watch CNN on the TV.
Right.
And now he owes $15 million possibly to this family.
That is wild. That is absolutely wild.
I had to share
Boy,
that
is
story.
crazy.
Isn't it? It's insane. It's absolute insanity. Let me just get these comments up here quickly. Oh, it's all Patrick. The government then is not your friend. That's what that thing in Latin said. What does it say? Sounds like police immunity. Boy doesn't have enough money to pay a big group of attorneys who could maybe sue anyway. It's true. If they had enough money to hire a big group of attorneys, they could maybe, but the guy may be on the hook for fit. But thank God it's a local law. But I'm going to check the laws here in New Jersey and find out. Just very quickly, one quick story, and then I'm out. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have not, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page if you have not done so. We really appreciate you doing that. Just one quick story out of the New York Post out of Connecticut. A state trooper who is a native of Poland got called to a call in Connecticut for a car with a flat tire on an interstate. Okay. His name is Lukas Lippert. He arrived at the call, and guess who the passenger of the car was? Lech Walesa. Remember Lech Walesa? That guy? Lech Walesa, he led Walesa, excuse me. He led the freedom movement and the anti-communist movement in Poland back in the 80s. Remember?
And he's the passenger?
He was the passenger of the car. He's been on a tour in the United States speaking about the plight of the Ukrainians and how we have to help them because they're fighting, and that it's kind of like the same thing. And he was thrown out of Poland, Lech Walesa. He got a Walesa. I always say Walesa, but it's Walesa. He got a Nobel Prize for his work in freeing Poland out from a communist rule. He's the passenger in the car, and the cop that responds to it happens to have been born in Poland and left when he was 18. And he meets Lech Walesa, who's a national hero there.
That's awesome. Hey,
how cool is that?
That's awesome. You know, you forgot Biden's most important. He made comments on Roe v. Wade, really important comments. They asked him on his comments, and he said, you know, that was General Washington's biggest decision about crossing the Delaware. So I can't believe you forgot this. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he was fleeing Corn Pop because Corn Pop was
fleeing Corn Pop. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Anyway, apologies for going over tonight, but I really wanted to get the Project Veritas stuff in. There were just so many news stories that I really wanted to get to.
That was great stuff too.
Yeah, thanks to Project Veritas for tipping me off to the story. Thank you for letting us use that video and the audio. Thank you. Thank you to EB for the new graphics
job, man.
and everything that we have.
Great
we appreciate it. Don't forget, I will be on Newsmax Monday, 5:45 Eastern Time on the Chris Salcedo Show. It's Mike Reagan and Mary Walter. So it's Mike and Mary Mondays on the Chris Salcedo Show. We do a little segment on Mondays. So that's on Newsmax TV. James, you making any appearances anywhere you want to plug?
I got nothing. Okay. I'm just making a record.
Oh, good. Oh, I didn't know that. That's fine.
We're making a record.
Old noodles. All right.
We'll get that next week.
So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. We enjoyed your participation and your comments, and have a fantastic week.